Alright, welcome back to Lou's Demos. Today we're going to talk about how to set up remote desktop. So you need the following operating system to do this. You need everything but Windows Home. So if you want to set up the server part, what I mean by that is where if you want to be able to dial in to your Windows 10 machine, it has to be anything but Windows Home. So it needs to be Business, Pro, Enterprise, educational version, not home or probably the Raspberry Pi one, whatever that one's called. I can't think of it at the top of my head. So we're going to walk through some of the different settings that you need to set this up. So first one is obviously that we're going to go to the control panel, go to settings, go to the control panel, go to system, scroll down, enable remote desktop. We're going to click enable, and it's going to prompt us, so we're sure we want to do this. Now this may look slightly different depending on what build you're using. So in this particular case, I'm using the 20H2. So here I have it enabled. We want to check our power. So we want to make sure, because the example, let's say if we had it set for 40 minutes or an hour or whatever, you may want to choose never when it's plugged in, because if you're leaving this on during the day and you're off somewhere else and you want to remote in, well, if the machine's asleep, you're not going to be able to remote desktop in. So that's another setting. The other setting is you want to make sure you're set up in your private network and all that. So here we can go in. So private networking, you want to turn on your network discovery so that way your firewall and all that's set up. If you're not sure how to change all that, you can essentially just, right here on your network card, go to your network settings and change your profile of your network. So if you want it to be public, if it's public, you can change it to private. And you can configure your firewall if you want to, mess with it yourself in particularly. So here we have the firewalls on, and you may need to allow other applications. So like an example, you may want to look through and make sure remote desktop is turned on. Yeah. So we got remote desktop is turned on. So there we go. So we should be able to remote in. No problems. Sweet. Second thing you need to do is you need to make sure you have the administrator or account selected. So let's go back in here. So there's a couple ways you can do it. In here, you can select your accounts here. So you can add, so by default, anybody who's an administrator will be able to remote in. But here's the also catch. You do have to set up a password for them. So we can go right here to the user account profile tab. So here I have a local admin. Not a big deal. I can also create a new user. So we need to set a password, because that's the one thing you do have to do is you have to set up a password. It has to have a password when you're remote desktopping in. So we can manage another account, or we can even make one up if we need to. So let's close that out. And here we can make another user. We can use the Microsoft. We can sign in with these things, and I don't have this type of information for this person because you may not want to link them. So we want to create a user without adding Microsoft to it. So I'm just going to call it remote. Set a basic password. And let's see if it allows us to skip that information. I guess not. So again, if I was really using this as a real machine, I would be putting real passwords in here. So, now the other thing too, so we can make them administrator. So, but if we go here, let's jump to another spot here. So if we go into computer management, right click on this computer, so maybe we don't want this person to have administrative access because we're going to be remoting in. So if we go this way under users and groups, here you can see here's our user. So now we go in here and click members, and then we can just click advance, fine, and then you can see here's all the different groups that we have. So we do have a remote desktop user. So if we add them to this particular group, should be able to remote in. And now let's try this in a second here. So we'll need to do one more thing. We'll need to know what the IP address is, because you can't remote into something. All right. So I'm going to use my iPad as the remote desktop. Just also to show you that you can change it. So here we're going to put in the IP address. All right, we're going to try using the iPad app. So we're going to click add PC. We're going to enter the IP address, which is 192 in my particular case. And hit save. And now we should be connected in there. You can see my top secret password there. And then you can see here saying yes, I want to allow this machine access, because here's the thing about Windows 10, or pretty much any of the Windows desktops, not the server version of this, you can't have multiple people logged in. It's one login account. So the machine itself has to have, or you can't be logged in while someone remotes in. So this is just taking a little bit moment longer because it's also applying a new profile first time that it's logging in. So, it takes all that steps to do. So here we go. Now, for the sake of speed, I'm just going to go ahead and hit next. Oh, I guess I'm being silly now because I'm trying to use my mouse, which there is no mouse. So that's the funny part. So let me click here. So the one thing with the iPad is it does not have the best lining up for the mouse buttons. So let's see. So let's see if I can get the keyboard back up and hit tab, 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 tab. And more tabs, and that should enter, and let's see what happens. There we go. Now I'm in. So that's the one downside with the window, or with an example with the iPad, is it does not have a very good, or at least a couple times I've used it where it doesn't synchronize very well. But you can see here I'm launching an app. There we go. So this would work with another machine. So if I was remote desktoping in from one machine to another, this would work the same way. So I'll show you an example here using a machine. So let me go ahead and disconnect out of here, sign back in. And if I wanted to remote into another client, I simply would just type in remote desktop and then put in the IP address. Also having the unlock key will help. And I'm not sure what my IP address is, so I'll be back in a second. Alright, now I got my IP address of my other machine. So now I simply log in here. It's asking us for the certificate. So because we're using self-signed certificates, we're going to just choose don't ask at the moment. So now I have a virtual that's remoting into another computer. Just like I used an iPad to remote into this virtual. And there we go. So that's how easy it is to, and then you can just toggle back and forth. See? Just the ironic part, they're both using the same desktop. So let's fix that real quick. So just so we can see that. Here, again, here's an error message for my machine because it does that every time it remotes in. There we go. So that includes how to set up remote desktop on Windows 10. Now, could I use, if I have a Windows 10, can I do that with a Mac? Yes. Microsoft does supply a app that will allow you to be a client to connect to your machine. Now you can't use that client for Windows 10 to remote into a Mac, but that's what you can use with the built-in features. If you wanted to be able to do this from the internet, you can do two ways. You could set up a VPN to your house or open up the port. I would recommend strongly using a VPN instead of opening up the port. It's just an extra layer of security. Alright, well, that concludes this demo. Thanks for watching. Bye.